the game.
Hi, I'm Kelsa Dickey, the CEO of the Financial Coach Academy and my financial coaching business, Fiscal Fitness Phoenix. My coaching journey began more than a decade ago with me helping people for free from my dining room table. What was once a little business of mine has grown into a 7-figure company that employs a team of people. My goal is simple, to help you fall more and more in love with financial coaching. I believe financial coaching is the most rewarding way to make a living. If you are an aspiring financial coach or have been coaching for years, I'm here to help you create a business you love that gets your clients massive results. Let's get to it.
Hey, Coach. Welcome to episode 73 of the podcast. We are going to start with a review that I got for the podcast by RCM31987. This person says, love this podcast, 5 stars. Kelsa has put an incredible podcast together and delivers consistently. I have binged my way through the first 40 episodes over the last few days, and I'm looking forward to the remaining episodes until I'm caught up. I'm also reading through her financial coaching playbook that I purchased, and I've joined the Facebook group. All the content related to the Financial Coach Academy and Kelsa Dickey is all great quality. Thank you so much, RCM. And for those of you who take the time to leave a review or subscribe to the YouTube channel, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate it. It helps other people to find this content. I love creating these episodes for you. And I just really appreciate those who take the time to share your thoughts and feedback with me. All right, Coach. Today we are going to talk about financial information. We're going to talk specifically about gaining financial information and how to go about doing that effectively and for the benefit of yourself, but also for your clients. This is part 2 of this series. So if you haven't listened to episode 72 yet, maybe hop back 1 episode and check that out first. That one is the mindset that goes along with the episode we're going to be discussing today. One of the questions I get asked all the time by newer coaches specifically is, what exactly do I need to know about money to coach people? Or what order do I prioritize topics when I'm coaching my clients? Or another version of this question is, what exactly do I recommend for clients who, insert a scenario? How do I make sure that I'm not overlooking anything is another question I get. And for example, I often receive messages where somebody asks me, which needs of their clients should be addressed first? Should they look at their bills first, 401k, spending, cash flow, credit card payments, emergency savings, investments, their tax organization, those types of things? And they're really asking, which one should I do first? Keep in mind, these questions are rarely asked about one client specifically, but more so about all of the coach's clients. And I know that these questions come from a good place if you have asked them. They come from this desire to feel confident and to know that you can help every client that you will sit down with. But it also comes from a novice or beginner perspective. Not only that, but I do think it also comes from this external perspective, this idea that there's information out there that you need to gain. There's some perfect plan that you should follow that will always work with every client. Someone like Kelsa, who has helped over 1,000 clients, can tell me how to do this with every person I will help. That there's some magical formula that will give me the confidence and reassurance that I'm seeking. Personally, I don't think that we can possibly prioritize financial topics for all people without putting them into a baby step-like program. And then that leads us down a path of one-size-fits-all thinking, which I consider incredibly dangerous. If managing our money was easy and formulaic, everyone would be good at it, and it wouldn't be the pervasive problem that it is today. And that formula would work for everyone, no exceptions. But we coach real people through real life. Which topic you addressed first might be debt for one client and savings for another client. It might be spending for one client and income for another. The concern about not overlooking anything is actually perfectionism talking, because it assumes you will be perfect and never overlook anything. I am certain, Coach, that right now, in this very moment as I record this episode, that there is something with my own finances that I am overlooking. I'll listen to the Choose FI podcast or Rob Berger or the Money Guy or an episode of Bigger Pockets. And I hear things all the time that I'm not doing with my own finances yet. And yet I would still say that I'm doing good financially. My guess is the same thing is true for you too. You are probably doing a lot of awesome things with your money coach, and I'm willing to bet there's even more that you could still be doing. Your clients will most likely feel the same way. They will do some awesome things thanks to your coaching and guidance, and there will be even more that they could still do. Having an expectation that you will see and catch everything is not a realistic standard to place on yourself, coach. So I want to offer some reframes when it comes to asking questions such as these. Here they are. First, what exactly do I need to know to coach this person? Next, what priority order does this person need most? What can I recommend to this client right now? How do I make sure I don't overlook the big picture? And how do I communicate the big picture to this client? In other words, instead of asking what you all need to know for all people in all situations, I want you to narrow your focus by a lot. Having an expectation that you won't overlook anything is exactly what causes new coaches to overlook the thing that is most important, the big picture. Instead of looking for a formula to follow or a list where you can check boxes, what you really want to learn is how to read between the lines and navigate a gray world with your clients. You want to learn to focus not just on a client's numbers, but how their relationship with money is transforming. Is your client progressing? Are they making progress toward their goals, a better life, with their habits, with how they feel about their money? Are they further ahead or further along than they were a month ago? I want to encourage you to focus on 3 things. Number 1 is progress. The goal is that the client is continuously making progress. If you put A before B or B before A, chances are it doesn't really matter. Could you argue that one way saves more money than the other? Yeah, maybe. But who says that that way is best just because of that? For example, there are times when I'm sitting down with a client who is so overwhelmed that all I care about is helping them to create some wins, because we have to shift their perspective from always failing or always screwing up to someone who can learn and grow and do something right. So we might go an entire month without trimming a single expense or making progress toward a specific goal that they have. All I want them to do is feel successful sticking to their spending money, for example. So we might beef up that amount so that it feels really easy for them. In the meantime, yeah, maybe their credit cards are incurring interest and they might be overpaying for some bills during that time. And pointing that out to them only reminds them of all the things they're doing wrong, not on the progress they're actually making. And then another client might not feel overwhelmed in the slightest. They're determined. And these are the clients where we're reviewing their bills, we're trimming or cutting expenses, we're putting new habits in place, we're moving debts around, we're doing a lot right out the gate because the client is ready for that level of intensity and progress. Your client determines the priority, not some book, not this podcast, and not me, your client coach. Your goal is to focus on helping the client to make and see financial progress. Now, the second thing I want you to do is lead with curiosity. Now, that sounds really nice. You've heard me say it a lot of times on this podcast if you've been here for a while, but what exactly do I mean when I say lead with curiosity? I want you to turn over every leaf. I want you to question everything. Should you look at their bills? Yes. What about savings? Yeah. Debt? Sure. It's all on the table. And every client, again, will have different things that you might need to look at. If you see something, anything, ask yourself, what is it? Use it as an opportunity to explore and go down rabbit holes. I have learned so much this way. I had a client once who did ballroom dancing. I first learned about it because she had Arthur Murray on her budget. Mind you, this was years ago. And I asked, who's Arthur and why do you pay him $300 per month? Or whatever the amount was. I should actually go back and look because this is one of those really weird things about my brain. And I'm wondering how many of you can relate to this. I'm not great at remembering names of things, but I can remember numbers. Like if you tell me your social security number, like 10 years from now, I'll be able to recite it back to you. I'm pretty sure this client paid $330 a month for her Arthur Murray. I should go back and confirm if that is the accurate number, but it was around $300 a month. But for some reason, her budget is like coming into my mind like so perfectly. And it's been years since I've met with this client. But anyway, so I asked her, who's Arthur and why do you pay him $300 per month? And she said she did ballroom dancing lessons and would even compete a couple times a year. Now, I know nothing about this. So of course I'm like, tell me everything. Do you have a partner? How do you practice? Is it even called practicing or is it like rehearsing? What are the competitions like? Do you get dressed up? Is it like Dancing with the Stars? Now, this was before Dancing with the Stars, so I don't think I asked that question. But is Arthur Murray considered a high-end dance studio? Is it common or average for people to do something like that? In other words, does everyone who ballroom dances pay something like this for that hobby? Is this common, right? I have another client who owns group homes. Oh my God, tell me everything. How did you get into that? Is there licensing that you have to obtain? Is there a lot of turnover for your residents or do they stay a while? Are they even called residents? Are they called tenants or patients? Who pays you? Do you pay people who stay there with the residents? Is the house considered residential or commercial property for property tax and mortgage purposes? Did you have to get special homeowners insurance? I didn't know anything about any of this stuff, and I simply asked the questions. I was curious. I turned over that leaf. You don't need to know about running group homes or ballroom dancing until you need to know about it. And then chances are you've got the best person to tell you about it sitting right in front of you, your client. Now, here's the thing. I want you to imagine you have a client who does ballroom dancing. So you ask all of the questions that I just listed, you learn a ton, and then a month or maybe a year later, another client comes to you and they say, I do ballroom dancing. I want you to imagine for a second what your response to this new client might be. Even if that client started today and they said they did ballroom dancing, you know what I would probably say? Oh, really? Tell me everything. And I would ask them all the same questions. Why? Because this person may do it differently. I'm still going to lead with curiosity even when I know something. If in your mind, coach, you are imagining that you will learn something once and then you will know it, you are stopping your own flow of curiosity. What you know is still limited to that one client's experiences, preferences, and methods. You still don't know how this new client experiences the same thing. Your learning doesn't stop just because you learned something. I think newer coaches are so concerned with being perceived as an authority figure. They think this means they have to know everything. But being a know-it-all is not relatable. It doesn't build trust, and it doesn't create a dynamic of growth and learning in your coaching sessions with your clients. What makes you an authority is a desire to learn and be the person who acknowledges what you don't know and not let that stop you. And that's because that's exactly what you want your clients to do on their financial journey. Learn something new and then learn even more and never stop while acknowledging every step of the way when they don't know something. You get to demonstrate that, but only if you stop seeing whatever you don't know as some kind of weakness. Now, the third thing that I want you to focus on is your intuition. Intuition is defined as a thing that one knows or considers, likely from instinctive feeling rather than conscious reasoning. My guess is that for many, many newer coaches, they lean heavily on the conscious reasoning part, but avoid or ignore the instinctive aspect of coaching their clients. That is more true when it comes to today's topic of knowing financial information than almost any other topic we could discuss related to financial coaching or having a business as a financial coach. Although I will say not paying attention to your intuition is definitely something that I would love for you to pay attention to in all areas of your work. You're asking, what do you need to do first, second, third, and so forth with your clients because you're trying to approach this from the logical perspective when what you really need is more of an instinctive perspective. Please know, I am not saying don't use logical thinking. I'm saying don't only use that. When it comes to helping your clients, your ability to do that is less about knowledge that you need to gain and more about skills you need to acquire. Specifically, the skill of learning to listen and trust your intuition, as well as your ability to learn and listen to the client. Those two things, listening to your intuition and listening to the client, those are the 1-2 punch that will determine what you do first, second, and third more than anything. A focus on intuition is probably why I tend to not concern myself so much with approaches that seem to be overly academic, institutional, or formulaic. Because over the past 15 years, helping over 1,000 people, there have been a number of times where some book, curriculum, or baby step, let's say, would say that the focus should be on X. But my gut was just screaming at me that it was not what the client needed. And my business transformed for the better when I began to trust my gut. And that happened because the clients started getting better results. One example I can share from my early days of coaching that might resonate for some of you is that back in the day, I used to believe that debt was evil and that it should be every person's priority to pay off their debts. A new client would start and we would do budgeting first and then focus on their debt second. I was definitely a believer and follower of the 7 baby steps taught by radio show host Dave Ramsey. But then something began to happen. I would meet with a client and we'd get to the point where I'm supposed to shift our focus to their debt, right? But I could just tell there were things way more important. Now, some of you are asking, how could you tell there was something more important? And again, there's never just one thing. Sometimes it would be because the client would come out and say, I care more about X than getting out of debt. But of course, not every client has that clarity themselves. Most clients, in fact, don't have that clarity, which is exactly why they're hiring you. But I did get better at listening to what the client was saying and sometimes not saying. But here's some examples. Maybe it was that the client was renting and in 4 months, their rent was going to go up $400 per month. So if they didn't move, that was going to impact their debt payoff more than anything else. So instead of focusing on paying down the debt, we had to solve that problem first because it was inadvertently going to affect their debt. Sometimes it was that a client could not say no to a friend or family member when they asked for money. Again, that affected their money and probably their debt. Sometimes I would look and see that even without debt, their income was the biggest gap. So I would prioritize that conversation and we'd get strategic about their income potential. In other words, I started to see the bigger picture. I could see that while debt might be a problem, what's an even bigger problem is whatever causes the debt. And that could be not enough savings, a spending problem, maybe no boundaries with family or friends, medical bills, or some sudden and big life event. I can remember when I first began to question my approach and the ways I thought people should manage their money or get ahead financially. Once I began to question it, I chose to trust my gut and tried being more flexible and fluid with my approach with clients. I remember feeling conflicted and torn during those moments. Eventually, I realized that it was my experience that made me smarter. It made it so I could see lots of things at once. I could see beyond some basic prescription and how it can't possibly work for everyone. Coach, I am so nervous that if I were to give you a list of things to discuss with your clients, it would only harm you more than help you. And I'm not willing to do that. But I do have something else that I'll give you. More on that in just a little bit. But first, as I was preparing my notes for this episode in this series, I had a coaching session just on Tuesday with a client. And I kid you not, I was given such a gift because on Tuesday, something came up that I have never faced before. This client experiencing something that over the course of 15 years of coaching clients, I have yet to experience. I literally do not know about the situation that this client is facing, okay? And I say this was a gift because I'm preparing my notes for this topic and real time, I'm able to almost like watch myself and see how I handled it. How did I feel? What did I think? How did I respond during the session with the client? What did I say to her? What steps did I take? And what did I give her to take? And how do I go about coaching a client on a financial thing that I don't have the knowledge on either? Instead of pretending to know everything or be perfect, we get to say, see, I don't know either. And that's not going to stop us from figuring this out. Not knowing something about money or a decision is normal. And it's normal for all of us, even us experts. And it's never a reason to stall out completely. It might slow us down a little bit, but don't let it stop you. Now let's learn together. When we focus on progress, curiosity, and intuition, this sets us up to deliver one thing consistently. And that is the ability to demonstrate learning for our clients and the skill of sourcing information so that we can gain knowledge as we need it. Is there any better gift that we can give our clients? So this client, we're going to call her Amelia for today. She shared with me this week that her mom has begun to experience memory loss. Now, the mom is not a client of mine. In fact, I've never met her. But Amelia has spoken about her mom many times throughout our coaching together. Amelia really looks up to her mom. She has shared just how much her mom sacrificed so that she could have the life she has now. Amelia is not an overly verbose sort of person in how she speaks. She's open and engaging, but also she's one of those people who is just very intentional and careful when she speaks. If you know the kind of person I'm talking about, that is Amelia. Well, when she talks about her mom, though, this love that she has just washes over her. She gushes about how loving and kind, hardworking, and strong her mom is. And she doesn't hold back when describing the impact this woman has had on her life. When Amelia got out of debt, and then sometime later, when her advisor told her she could retire at any time, and she paid off her house, and she had money saved for her next car, all really great and smart financial moves, right? I remember the coaching session where we were like, Amelia, you could literally do anything at all. What do you want to do? This client, Amelia, had a couple, I was like, depending on the month, $2,000 to $3,000 extra every single month, right? And everything was taken care of, really and truly. What do you want to do with your extra money every month? Mind you, this is a person who had so many debts when she first came to me, she had forgotten to tell me about 3 of them. And that is not an exaggeration. Her life completely changed through coaching. And let's just take that in for a moment. This is why you want to have clients for years and years. This transformation doesn't happen during a 6-month coaching program or even a year of sessions. This happened over time and by repeatedly planning ahead, being strategic, and by having a continuous positive focus on progress. Well, Amelia's next goal was to spend her money on her mom. It started with her taking her shopping one weekend so that her mom could buy a new dress. Isn't that just the sweetest? Then she bought her mom a new recliner. Then she started by booking vacations for her and her mom to do together. Amelia would cry telling me about the memories she was creating with her mom. She said, my mom gave up so much of her life for me. Now I'm giving her so much of it back, and it feels like the best thing I could ever do. So you can imagine hearing that this woman, who I don't know, yet feel like I do, is beginning to lose her memory. Amelia in tears, expressing gratitude for the time that she's had, the memories they've created, while also feeling sad because time suddenly feels limited. Now, please know that the first thing I did was not start talking about financial moves. I let the client tell me about her mom. Some of the stories I'd already heard, but it didn't matter. After some time, I told Amelia I was so sorry, that I could only imagine how this must feel and the whirlwind of emotions that she's experiencing since finding out. Then I approached this from 2 perspectives. First, I reminded the client that she has set herself up to have a whole lot of options, and that is a gift in times like this. She works remotely, so I said, I want you to let yourself think about what you would love to be able to do right now. Do you want to move closer to your mom? This client lives in Nevada, her mom in California. Would you like to bring your mom to you? Something else entirely. You don't have to make any decisions. Just know that it's okay to let yourself consider the best case scenario for both you and your mom. Just let yourself think about that, okay? Next, I asked her if she knows if her mom has a will, trust, or estate plan, and she said yes. They talk about everything, thankfully. So she knew a bit about what her mom had established. And then I asked her if her mom has an estate planning attorney, and she said she thought so. So I told this client, I want to be honest. I don't know the specifics, and this isn't my area of expertise. But I've heard that if her mom has to go into a long-term care facility or of some kind, there's something with her home that she owns and her other assets that she'll want to make sure they're protected. I told her, I think there's something about a period of time before her mom, goes into a home where they look back to see what her assets are. And I know that it's years, but I don't know if it's 2 or 3 or 5 years, and it might depend on the state. But that there's probably something we need to do to protect her mom. And I thought she should probably meet with her estate planning attorney as soon as possible. I told Amelia I would also make a call to an estate planning attorney that I knew, and I'll ask some questions, but I wanted her to do it too. I reminded her that we're just in a learning and exploration mode, and that I gave her some very open-ended questions that she could ask, such as, first, make sure you let the attorney know what's going on, and then ask, what steps do I need to be aware of? What do you wish your clients knew to ask at this stage? What are some steps I should take now, and what do I need to have on my radar for the future? What are some things I need to begin to consider? What are some things I absolutely should not do? That's a great example of that question when someone is looking to buy a house, right? And they've already gone through underwriting or pre-qual, they got pre-approval, and a lot of mortgage lenders will say, do not touch your credit. Don't open any more debt. Don't go buy a car. Don't do anything like that, right? So what are some things I absolutely should not do? That's a really important question to ask. Not just what should I do, but what should I not do? And then also ask this attorney, how can we make sure my mom is protected? I told her, we're just going to be curious right now. We're both going to learn some things, myself included. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll come back together and we'll update each other on what we learned. I told her, remember, we're not in decision mode right now. We're just learning about the options so that we can make an informed decision when you're ready. This client was so grateful, not because I gave her any kind of answers, because I didn't. I don't have any answers. I essentially said, there's something here. I don't know what it is, and maybe it's nothing, but let's check. Let's get with an expert who can tell us. Then we can talk about it together. What else did I do for this client? I pointed her in the right direction to an estate planning attorney. Sometimes people are like, who is the title, or what is the title of the person I should even be looking for right now, right? And you can help point them in that direction. I gave her questions to ask, not answers. I reminded her of the mindset that we want to adopt right now: curiosity, exploration, learning. I showed her how we can make progress by talking again in 2 weeks, and that will determine some next steps then. So I gave her a milestone to shoot for, which can be really helpful when a situation feels scary or uncertain for our clients. And honestly, probably the most important thing that I did for Amelia, I let her know she wasn't alone in navigating this. Were there other things I could have talked with Amelia about during that coaching session? Sure. But I promise you, none of them were more important to her than making sure her mom is going to be okay. From there, I called an attorney I know, and I told her what was going on. And I just said, how do I best help this client? What are some questions she should be asking? What should she look out for? What should she avoid? All of those same questions I asked Amelia to ask, right? I allowed this professional to be the expert. I also asked which states she's licensed in, because depending on how the conversation goes with Amelia's OG attorney, I may be able to refer her over to this attorney. There is no promise of that, but there's potential, which is why we're all so happy to help each other when things like this arise. I adopted the same philosophy that I do with my clients. Tell me what I need to know. I'm the student now. Teach me. And when you do that, you give people the opportunity to shine in the way that they can shine best. It is such a win-win-win scenario, Coach. In 2 weeks, I'll meet with Amelia again and we'll compare notes. We'll determine next steps for her to take, and I'll continue to help her make progress as well. At some point, there's probably a conversation about talking with her mom. The beautiful thing about their relationship is they're very open, both of them together. And so that won't be a problem. But in some instances for clients, it might be, right? So there might be a very delicate conversation that needs to happen. It really just depends on the client. Not once did I feel badly about myself for not knowing about this area of life. Not once did I claim to know about it. In fact, I owned that I didn't know. I didn't take it upon myself to do all of the learning either. Me and the client will do it together. And I didn't question the value that I deliver as a coach because I didn't have all of the answers for Amelia. By doing it this way, I demonstrated the skill of learning and expanding our financial knowledge. I showed her how sometimes we all need to lean on experts and that asking for help is okay. Even experts lean on other experts. I guided her to explore the topic and to separate that from any decision making. Try to think about that in two phases. We're learning and then we're making decisions. We're not trying to do those two things at once sometimes. I helped her gain trust, not only in herself, but with another professional. And I deepened our coaching relationship because she knows that if ever I don't know the answer, she can still count on me to be a resource. I have now taken 2 whole episodes to talk with you about your approach to gaining financial knowledge, and I am not done yet. Next episode, I am actually going to give you an exercise that I do with clients that will help you cater your approach based on the client's needs. When I look at a person's financial life, I see 18 different categories. In next episode, I will share those categories with you as well as the handout that I use every day in my coaching business. This is going to help you to see their finances as a whole. It's going to help you to really see the big picture so that you can figure out where is the weakest link, what should I prioritize for this individual, and help you to hone in on the area that's probably going to be most important in your coaching. So get excited for that next week, coach. Coaching is all about figuring out what you think of something and how that is impacting how you feel and the actions you take. In order to honor the coaching philosophy, I like to end every episode with a question for you to reflect on. The purpose is to deepen your awareness of your thoughts and help you gain clarity on today's topic. It also creates the opportunity for you to share your thoughts with me and other financial coaches. So let's get the discussion going. You can join our private Facebook group called Financial Coaches Unite on Facebook. It's absolutely free. You can find the link to that in the show notes. Find today's episode and leave a comment with your answer to today's question. The question is, how can you embrace progress, curiosity, and your own intuition when it comes to coaching your clients? How can you embrace progress, curiosity, and your own intuition when it comes to coaching your clients? I believe financial coaching is the best and most rewarding way to make a living. I truly love what I do. If you're ready to learn and see how to become a profitable, successful financial coach, check us out at financialcoachacademy.com to learn more about our online courses, free trainings, and events. As always, I love hearing from you. If you have any questions for the FCA podcast or to share your thoughts on the reflection question from today's episode, go to financialcoachacademy.com/podcast. And if you love this podcast, hit the thumbs up button on today's episode, subscribe, and leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean the world to me. I'll see you next week, Coach.